It's Monday, and you know what that means. Jersey First TV proudly brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk. And certainly, I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, Top 50 Latino, as voted on by the Latino Spirit online magazine, along with the United States Latino Affairs Initiative. And now more than ever, folks, I'll continue to be the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media because my level of honesty, now more than ever, is truly necessary in this era of journalistic deception. And without a doubt, I'm everyone's favorite conservative. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it's me, Fernando Uribe. Happy Monday to you all. Appreciate you tuning in here from wherever and however you may be doing so on Facebook Live via StreamYard, also on the Jersey First YouTube page, along, of course, with all of our social media platforms. Folks, I cannot say enough how happy and proud I am of all of you and your support. And really, but ladies and gentlemen, without all of you tuning in every single week, sharing the replays, tuning in live, going on our social media, again, the show would not be anywhere near the success that it would be. And again, I owe it all to you, and I'm deeply thankful for that. Of course, folks, make sure you like us on Facebook, of course. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. For all you YouTube subscribers, I know you're always watching YouTube for something. Click the subscribe button and you'll be automatically notified of all the great content brought to you every single week by Jersey First. And whether you get your podcast on Spotify or SoundCloud, download Jersey First and take it with you on your smartphone, on your tablet. Listen, we're all doing something as the weather's getting nicer. We're outside, walking our dog, going for that morning or late afternoon run, doing errands, grocery shopping, whatever it is you're doing, folks, you're on your phone. So guess what? Since you are, check out Jersey First TV anywhere at any time. And I cannot say this enough, how privileged I am to be on the dream team of Garden State Media. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's always Jersey First TV, brand new episodes of The Nader Narrative, hosted by the amazing Elizabeth Nader, premiere every Thursday, and brand new episodes of Bridging the Gap with AJ Malillo and Stephen Rombolo, also premiere on Thursdays and every Monday night live right here, ladies and gentlemen. You can check out the latest edition of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe via Jersey First TV. Folks, jam-packed show tonight. You definitely want to stick around for final thoughts because, hey, I do want to, I don't mean to brag, but guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Once again, the month of March in 2024, outstanding traffic, 17,000 plus views and counting. All organic, ladies and gentlemen, nothing boosted here. All right, I don't believe in boosting anything, all organic. And folks, again, it's just a great traffic. We continue in 2024, going back to 2023. And even when we first started the show with Jersey First in 2022, the traffic remained strong because of all of you. Again, you would tune in every Monday during the live broadcast. And of course, those of you that share the replay, hey, I am deeply humbled by all of your support. And I'm not the most humble guy around, but I'm deeply humbled by your support. So we'll definitely talk about that during final thoughts. And folks, also, you know what? I want to kind of take a moment here and I want to pay homage and I want to applaud and I want to celebrate all of the great journalists in New Jersey media, in the establishment media, right? Of course, Jay Lassiter, Matt Friedman, Terrence McDonald, David Cruz, Tom Moran, Alan Steinberg, Max Pizarro, and Charles Stile. And again, I just want to applaud them for their incredible work ethic and their nonpartisan objective approach to the way that they cover the news, the way they talk about the news. Folks, I have to tell you, it's such a privilege. I'm so lucky to be living in a time when we get to look at journalism through the lens of these individuals. And I cannot say enough how grateful I am to all of them and how thankful I am that we get to consume the news here in New Jersey, thanks to these 8 incredible gentlemen behind me. And I just want to say that April Fool. Folks, really? Did you think I was ever going to pay any sort of homage or credit to the useless 8 behind me? I mean, come on now. I know I had you going for a little bit there. Come on, admit it. Come on, folks. I mean, let's be honest. It was too easy to do this on April Fool's Day. And folks, as if really, we talk about bad journalism in New Jersey. I mean, folks, it doesn't get any worse than these 8 clowns here. But, ladies and gentlemen, when you think about it, when you have 8, the useless 8, as I like to refer to them, in New Jersey media every day in the Garden State, is April Fools. So shout out to my favorite fools in New Jersey media on this April the 1st. But folks, in all seriousness, we'll talk about something important during final thoughts about the county line and, quite frankly, why abolishing the county line is a good thing. So I'll talk about that and much more, folks. But hey, before we get to all that good stuff, get your popcorn ready, get ready for a few laughs. But folks, it's election season, not just this year, but in Jersey City in 2025. And hey, there's a lot of chatter going on about, hey, who's going to be the next mayor of Hudson County's largest city, as the current mayor, Stephen Fulop, has announced he will not be running for another term, and he'll be running for the Democrat nomination for governor in 2025. And there's a few people looking to succeed him in Jersey City, and one of them is my guest tonight. He is the current Hudson County Commissioner and mayoral candidate in the city of Jersey City. Folks, you know, I can't say enough really about how hardworking he is, and quite frankly, you know what? A guy that you have to keep an eye out for with this campaign. Folks, he is Bill O'Day. Join us here on Real Talk. Commissioner, how are you?
Hey, Fernando, how are you? I'm doing good.
Happy to have you on here. And again, folks, check out the website there for Commissioner O'Day. As you can see there, it's www.billodayjc.com. And again, hope you had a great Easter weekend, Bill. Kind of a relatively quiet weekend politically, right? In New Jersey politics over the weekend?
If you call political earthquakes quiet, I guess so. The end of the line kind of shook things up a little bit.
Absolutely. And let's get to that, Bill, because certainly, U.S. Representative Kim's lawsuit has gotten a lot of traction. We all know what a testy that race that was becoming with First Lady Tammy Murphy, who thankfully stepped down. And it certainly, I guess, just kind of opens the door for Andy Kim to win that primary coming up in June. But really at the heart of the matter is abolishing the county line. And that's something that, 49 other states across the country didn't have to deal with this. But New Jersey was the last state to really sort of practice this within its political system. And as you said, it caused quite an earthquake this past Friday. Your thoughts when you heard the news?
So, look, I came out in favor of abolishing the line a couple of weeks ago. I really credited Matt Plotkin. I think the decision he made publicly to say he was not going to defend the line and that it was unconstitutional, I mean, I think that set the stage. He took a lot of courage because he was going up against all the political bosses. But I think it's a great thing. I think it's going to make everybody who wants to run for local office work harder. It's going to not destroy the county party bosses, but it's certainly going to weaken them. And it's going to make local elected officials, whether it's on a municipal level, a county level, even a state legislative level, so much more accountable to their constituents and less beholden to the county bosses.
Bill, I think you said something really interesting there about having to now really get to work. And for the longest time, not just Hudson County, but I think in general, across all 21 counties, that, whether you were a Republican or a Democrat, if you won the county line, I mean, half the battle was won in a sense when it came to just ballot placement and really getting the support from, again, the machine, not necessarily the device itself that you're voting on, but the county machine when it comes to the apparatus. And, I've been talking to elected officials all throughout the weekend, and there's been some mixed reaction about this. I know, obviously, current county chair Anthony Veneri, a fellow commissioner with you, well, former commissioner with you.
Former, right.
Yes, he's a commissioner now in the township of North Bergen, but he was very emphatic about why this was a bad decision. Again, I don't want you to speak for Anthony Veneri or try to get inside his head, but what do you think prompted such a sort of bombastic response from the current Democrat chairman?
Well, I mean, it weakens their power, right? Whether it's him or the other county chairs, they're less powerful, they're less important. So I think it's a natural reaction, maybe an overreaction, but I think it's a natural reaction. And by contrast, from my perspective, as somebody in 2002 that got, well, I opted to not run on the line. I didn't even get thrown off. I decided I didn't want to run on the line that year. But you work all the time. You build up your base. You stay in touch with your constituents. So even in election cycles, I think in recent years where they might have wanted to kick me off the line, they didn't do it because they knew it was a futile exercise. So I understand his position. I don't agree with it. I stand by what I thought, why it made a lot of sense. And long term, I think it's going to result in better, more responsive elected officials, especially as you get to the more local level.
Now, let's get to that, because when it comes to the county line, obviously we know the hoopla that it's really engulfing the U.S. Senate race this year. I'm sure that next year for the gubernatorial race, it's going to get a lot of conversation. Whether or not it's abolished by then already, who knows if it will require a judicial action or a legislative one. That remains to be seen, though, Bill. But at the local level, I think a lot of people maybe, and let's try to separate fact from fiction here, at the local level, again, as it pertains to your race next year, running for mayor, is this as monumental an effect, let's say, on a municipal race like yours as it would on a county or statewide race?
Yeah, it really has no effect on us. We already run in the block. They already draw mayor, then they draw the at large, and they draw the ward. So you can be 1A, your at large could be 3, 9, 10, 11, and your ward council people could be whatever, 1, 3, 5, 7. So we've already done it, and the idea that it disenfranchises people is ridiculous. I think it makes everybody work hard on their own. And if you look at some municipal races, you see that often. Look at Jersey City and Hoboken. Those councils are not made up of 9 people that swear their allegiance to the mayor, right? They're independents that get elected, especially in the ward races, less in the at-large races. So it shows that there's an ability with block voting to get people elected just because they work hardest. They may have constituents, they may have name recognition. All those factors become more important.
Certainly, folks. It's 7-Eleven here on the East Coast. If you're just tuning in, click that share button, because sharing is caring here. My guest tonight is current Hudson County Commissioner and 2025 Jersey City mayoral candidate Bill O'Day, joining us here on Real Talk. Bill, let's get off the line for a minute, because I know it's sort of like the big hot button topic, but let's get to your race going into next year. And I'm sure you've been asked this. We talked a little bit off the air before we went live here this evening. And I think a lot of people have said to me, hey, man, whether it's in Hoboken or in Jersey City, why this sort of insistence on, starting a campaign so early? I think if we're learning anything about 2024, I mean, people are exhausted about this year's presidential race. And I'm sure once January comes around, people are going to be like, oh, exhausted, but they're going to have to turn their attentions to, again, a gubernatorial race, legislative races, but at the local level, obviously, mayoral races like yours. Why the sort of insistence to announce your candidacy so early, where perhaps you could have waited a little bit longer in the year, perhaps?
Well, I mean, I think that, someone else, another candidate created an early timeline, right? And if you failed to get out there early, you would have let that candidate run wild, say these other candidates aren't going to run, come with me. So I think that strategically that was important for us to announce early. Having said that, we're now looking at our grassroots ground up campaign from now to the remainder of this year and early into next year. Like I said, we have got about 650 volunteers already. And now as we go to every event, we gather data, we get names, we follow up. As we go, starting in June, knocking on doors, we'll go into areas where we don't have as many volunteers to recruit our grassroots operations. So we look at it like somebody building up an army in preparation of a war. So we're going to keep the missiles in the silos. We're not looking to drop any bombs. Right now, we're looking to build our ground troops, as well as starting to raise some serious money for the campaign also, because you need unfortunately, you need money to run these campaigns now.
Certainly, in the grand opening of your office on Kennedy Boulevard, I mean, that created a tremendous turnout. And one of the things that stood out for me, again, is the diversity, not just in your volunteers, but really in your base, though, Bill. Again, you're a lion, dude. You've been around the wars, the trenches. You've been in the Hudson County wars, as they say. And you're a guy, born and bred in Jersey City. A lot of people that I talk to, insiders, would say, hey, you know what? Bill's got a really good advantage because of that sort of organic transparency, right? That sort of originality that, you're a Jersey City guy, and people feel that that's going to work in your favor. But by the same token, too, some people might turn around and be like, well, Bill's been here a long time and he didn't pull the trigger until now. When you hear both the positive and the negative, though, Bill, about the campaign, what's been the best course of action for you in addressing potential constituents?
So I think it's important to and why I got out early is to let people know I'm in this. I'm in this to win it. I'm in this to run I'm in here to show, I'm not going to run on promises. I'm going to show what I've done. I'm going to show the approach we have to just solving problems every day. I'm a problem solver. That's what I look at. I roll up my sleeves, get on the ground, and we solve problems. Little problems, small problems. I think that I'm going to be able to show a level of constituent services for decades that other candidates are not going to be able to match. And I think that those things are critical. There are ideological aspects of being the mayor, but there's at least half of being a mayor is pragmatic. How do you get the streets cleaned? How do you get the garbage picked up? How do you get a tree trimmed? How do you get a pothole filled? How do you help somebody get a job if they need a job? These are all the things that I've spent my entire career doing. And when it comes to stuff like parks and recreation, I say, don't see what I'm going to do. Come to Lincoln Park. Look at how that park looks. Look at all the things that go on there. And look at how many, just this year alone, we'll have free summer camps. City doesn't have free summer camps anymore. We'll have 3 or 4 free summer camps just in Lincoln Park. So I think that when you run on what you believe in, when you run on your history and your love for the city, right? I think that that's something that is critical, as well as putting a good team together. I think over the next 6 months, we'll put together the team of candidates that will be second to none.
And Bill, and we'll talk about potentially who could be some running mates in a little bit. Obviously, I don't want to, force you to show your hand here, as they say, but we'll talk about it a little bit later. But let's talk about, again, the platform. And Stephen Fulop obviously announcing he's not running for another term. He's running for governor. He'll have 3 terms under his belt. I know you've maintained a pretty good relationship with the current mayor. Having said that, moving forward, should you get elected in November of 2025, do you wish to sort of build on what Stephen Fulop has accomplished in Jersey City, or do you want to differentiate yourself completely?
So for the most part, I'm going to differentiate myself. I will build on his accomplishments. Technologically, he brought the city into the 21st century. So that's a great credit. But a lot of the old school ways of dealing with your neighborhood problems are things that we still need to be cognizant of, because not everybody's high tech. When it comes to the budget, I think that the difference between Steve and I is I'm going to walk in there and figure out how to develop a 4-year budget. Budgeting year to year has created a problem in the city that far predates Stephen Fulop. It goes back to when I was a councilman. Because you look at a year, how do I get through this year? How do I get through this year? Meanwhile, the problems don't go away, right? One-time revenues have to be recovered and found again the next year. They get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So I'm going to end that and say, look, I'm going to look at 4 years. I'm going to look at maybe I can't increase or say I'm going to lower your taxes, but I'm going to keep increases within a manageable, 3%, 4% range, and be honest with people. The other thing is just an example from the top. Like, the first thing I'll do as mayor is introduce an ordinance to lower my salary by, I don't know, probably 20%. So if it's going to be tough times, the example gets set at the top, and I'll also ask the council members to also reduce their salaries. So that shows we mean business. So if we're going to cut costs, if we're going to try to make our government more efficient, then we need to set the example at the top.
Interesting. Oh, interesting. I had not heard that during this campaign from anyone. That's a really good move, Bill. Certainly, and I think that'll definitely draw some attention for sure. Other issues, I think one big issue, Bill, that remains a constant topic of conversation. I was talking with the editor of the Jersey City Times, Aaron Mayoral, a few weeks back, talking about affordability. And it's hard to sort of put the genie back in the bottle, right, Bill? I mean, Jersey City, the downtown area, a lot, the Heights, the West Side 440. I mean, we've seen development really explode over the last, let's say, 10, almost 15 years. And it's impossible to sort of go back. But a talking point, I think, that is really, consistent among the current council members, the mayor currently, and I think even candidates, has been like, hey, I want to do my part to at least make Jersey City affordable. Bill, is that even possible at this point when we're seeing high rises in Journal Square? We're seeing these condos on 440. We're seeing like high cost rentals on the south side. Again, I'm not trying to be mean or malicious here, but there's a lot of undesirable areas in Jersey City where I'm not sure if I want to pay $2,000 rent in parts of the south side or wherever. But I mean, that seems to be the norm now. And it's hard to put the genie back in the bottle. Is there any fix possible about trying to keep Jersey City affordable, but by the same token, development is inevitable.
So I think the first thing to do is make affordability more than a catchphrase, right? So one of the candidates just throws the word, make it affordable, make it affordable, make it affordable. It's not like you say it 3 times and it happens. It takes a lot of work and understanding. I mean, I have 30 years working in the actual world of economic development, so I understand what it is. I think you've got to go in. What's done is done, right? You can't undo what's done, but you got to look at everything else that's there. So Bayfront, I think, is a good example of a potential project that has a mixed income, right? They have 35% affordable with market, and it's going to work. And it's going to work in great part because of state subsidy under the Aspire program. So having somebody that actually worked in part or was consulted on some of the aspects of that legislation, I think I bring a level of expertise to sit down with developers and say, look, here's why 20% of your units can be low mod. Now, beyond that, here's the incentives. Here's the tax credits under Aspire and other programs that might exist. By contrast, I'm currently talking to people at DCA who are now offering incentives for workforce housing. So there's a second need for that 80 to 100% AMI for people that make $75,000, $80,000 a year. A teacher, a police officer, a firefighter, a nurse. So I think we need to create incentives on a state level and also locally to have that incorporated within developments as they occur. But it's up to the mayor and the redevelopment agency to sit down developer by developer as new developments come in and ask them to incorporate those units in there. Additionally, when you look neighborhood by neighborhood, how many neighborhoods are there sites where we can do low-rise affordable, right? Low-rise affordable units probably cost 50% of the cost of a high-rise affordable unit. The construction's a construction. One may cost $500,000 to build, the other may cost $260,000. So making a $260,000 unit an affordable rental takes a lot less subsidy than a $520,000 one. So there's not one size fits all. We should get in the high-rise projects affordable units and try to get state incentives through Aspire wherever we can. We should look in our neighborhoods and identify sites where we can do affordable housing. I'm honestly working with Blesk now. Blesk is looking to do an 18-unit affordable site on MLK, which will include on the ground floor their offices for their classrooms and their operating things. I actually know how to get a development of affordable housing done. So I don't know who else might enter the race that has that level of understanding. And I think when you talk to developers, that's the kind of stuff that gives us a better chance to get things to be more affordable. And look, you also have a rent control law that you have to make sure is enforced. We found out that there are buildings where we would talk to tenants and I'd say, how long do you live here? I lived here 2 years. How much is your rent? $2,000. I lived here 5 years. What's your rent? $1,700. I lived here 10 years. What's your rent? $1,400. Well, that means there was a vacancy decontrol done, even though the law doesn't allow vacancy decontrol under 95% of the circumstances. So that's just simply getting people to report what their rents are and enforcing what the laws are.
Interesting. Interesting. Folks, it's 7:24 here on the East Coast. My guest tonight is the current Hudson County Commissioner and Jersey City mayoral candidate in 2025, Bill O'Day, joining us here on Real Talk. Check out his website, BillO'DayJC.com, for more information. Looking to donate and volunteer for his campaign for mayor. Bill, you mentioned other people in the race, and I think I have to sort of mention the obvious here. The other big name, well, I mean, there are two big names. There's Council President Joyce Waterman, that's also announced, and the former governor, Jim McGreevey. It's been 20 years since really Jim McGreevey left elected office. It's a long time ago in New Jersey politics. We all know the logistics of what happened. There was a special on CNN about it a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, Jim McGreevey has been heralded by some as a great comeback story in politics, and others are saying perhaps that, well, let's see where he fits into Jersey City and his desire to run for mayor. What separates you from Jim McGreevey? Again, two guys that have been in the electoral wars over the years, have different backgrounds, but now you're vying for the office of mayor in Hudson County's largest city. Point blank, what differentiates you from Jim McGreevey?
Well, I'm Jersey City, right? born, bred, destined to die here. This is my city. This is the city that I love. I didn't leave here and now come back here because I somehow think I just want to be the mayor. I think the difference is that look, all politicians have egos, but I think he's much more ego driven than I am. I think that he's doing this because it's part of his quote unquote redemption. I'm not doing it for my redemption. I'm doing it because I think that I'm at a place and a time in my career where I can go into the city, take all the experience I have, take all the knowledge I have, and do a good job as mayor, irregardless of what the consequences are of making the right decisions. I've got no other aspirations at this point in my career. I think I can walk in there, do what's right. If I do what's right and 4 years later they want to throw me out, I think history will still find that I did what's right, and long term it's good for the city. And if I do a good job and I get a second term and I never do more than 2 terms, then that would be good too. I think Jim is motivated. It's kind of more ego. It's like it shouldn't be about anybody's redemption. It should be all about Jersey City. So I think that's the big. I think that's the biggest difference between him and I. And I don't know what his aspirations may be beyond it. I mean, the one thing that just disappoints me a little bit about him is that when he went into doing reentry, he said that's all he ever wanted to do. Like that's what his passion was. And now he's kind of willing to walk away from that passion to be the mayor of the city.
Interesting points there. Bill, let me ask you this also, too, because I know that there's another candidate in the race, and that's Councilwoman and the Council President, Joyce Waterman. We're anticipating other candidates as well. There's a lot of speculation. I'm not going to sort of feed into that or give it oxygen, but the bottom line is that this could become kind of, I don't want to say messy, but this ballot, think about what 2025 is going to look like, right? We have a gubernatorial race. We're going to have legislative races. We're going to have a mayoral race and council races. I mean, this might look like my dissertation at this point, this ballot. I mean, it's going to be absurd. And, when you think about the possibilities of other candidates jumping in here, I mean, at the end of the day, some people might say, well, more candidates, the better. But does that concern you, again, as a guy who's, again, sort of the elder statesman within this pool of candidates? Does that concern you that, you have way too many people in the pool and that can maybe dilute sort of like the election season in 2025?
Yeah, I think what happens is depending on the number of candidates that have full tickets and properly funded, whether or not you'll have a runoff, right? You need 50+1 in Jersey City. It's not winner. It's not whoever gets the most votes the first time. So candidates like myself who come in with a base, right? I've served the West Side, part of Greenville, part of Journal Square. If you analyze my district over the years of redistricting, probably about 45% or 40 to 45% of the city I've represented. So I look at that as my base. So going into that with 40% of the districts having represented over the course of my career, I think that's a great place to be. The more candidates in the race, the better your base is, because the more your base will be in getting you into the runoff. Also, I think from the perspective of if there's a runoff, having a base, being known, having the more, I would say today, we have far and away the most enthusiastic supporters. We announced to over 700 people in Lincoln Park. We had 250 when we just opened up an office on a monsoon. So that level of enthusiasm, I think, is critical to that. But no, you're right. If you get 4, 5 full slates, you're almost guaranteed there's going to be a runoff. And then it just changes your strategy for the initial election, because now you got to come in first or second, and you got to be close, either ahead or close, as opposed to there's 3 candidates. How do we get 50%+1 on the first ballot?
Interesting. Now, listen, it could definitely create a very interesting dynamic going into next year. Bill, the Pompidou Museum and the Lowe's Theater in recent weeks has been a topic of considerable conversation. I know that, once again, shout out to Aaron Morrill, the editor of the Jersey City Times, for covering this story. I know that one of your opponents has had a lot to say about the Pompidou Museum and also the Lowe's Theater. Where do you stand on these 2 projects where, again, essentially in Journal Square, it'd be a shot in the arm, certainly, but by the same token, I mean, when I think about spending money on XYZ, I think about, hey, can we create more parking? Can we create more services for seniors, rec programs for our kids. I mean, where do you stand? I know you have a pretty strong position on the museum and also the low state, which again, you want to have, and they're great amenities. I think that would benefit residents, but by the same token, it's about property taxes. It's about affordability, parking, traffic. I mean, where do you stand on these issues? And quite frankly, is it something that maybe we can kind of put on the back burner presently?
So I look at them differently. So the Pompidou, there's a certainly significant issue that has to be resolved, and that's the operating cost of it. So there's only a 5-year commitment for the Pompidou to be here. And even during those 5 years, museums don't necessarily make money. So if there's going to be an operating deficit on an annual basis, who's going to pay that? And we need to figure that out sooner rather than later before we spend the money on the building. So that, I agree, is critical. I think the money to do the work exists. And it's not like you can take this money and put it into like a program for someone. Sure. A lot of these monies are capital dollars. You could fix something else with them, but a lot of the money in the case of both of these is from the state, and the state doesn't let you reallocate that money to do something else. So anyone who proffers that doesn't know what they're talking about. Now, the Lowe's Theater, it's a no-brainer to get that done. The longer we wait, the more it costs. Sure. It is an entertainment center. It will bring 4,000 people to Journal Square 150 days a year. Yeah. The effect that will have on the economy is unbelievable. It's a boost in the arm that you need to have, and that needs to get started right away.
Bill, real quick, I'm not sure if it'll help you out a little bit. If you want to turn on the light inside your vehicle.
I know, I was going to do that. I know. Hold on.
I don't want you to get too dark here. So.
I know. Hold on.
I'll take you off the screen. I'll take you off the screen real quick here.
Let's see.
Okay. That's
yep. Better.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yep, absolutely. I just want to make sure. I want to make sure I gave you some good lighting.
I agree. I saw the sunlight going down.
Yeah, no problem. So Bill, let me ask you this, because
if I could just finish on the Lowe's Theater.
Yes, please.
So the Lowe's Theater predominantly is funded by historic tax credits from the federal government and state historic tax credits. Now the city's putting in probably $35 million. The operator of it's putting in $6 million. We can argue that they should have put more in. I think that's a reasonable argument. I don't think the city had the luxury of having a lot of proposals to be able to do that. But at the end of the day, one, that's going to be done with 100% project labor agreement, union labor. We want to put those young men and women to work. A good percentage have to be Jersey City residents. There's also going to be a percentage of Jersey City subcontractors and vendors that are going to earn money doing work on that building or providing supplies. So the Lowe's Theater, no-brainer, needs to be done, get it started, get it back operating. There's also going to be community programming there, 55 days a year through the Friends of the Lowe's, whose board I sit on. So that's something that we will not have if we don't get the theater restored. Pompidou, we need to figure out who's going to pay the cost every year to run it.
Fair enough. Bill, one of the things that I guess maybe this election season is teaching us is, listen, 2024, we're living in a time of just utter tribalism on steroids. That's not going to be probably the case in 2025. And again, at a municipal level, you're a Democrat. I know a lot of your fellow candidates are Democrats too, but at a municipal level, that's not so much as a pertinent issue as it is, maybe philosophy. I know you're a progressive. There are some things that bother me about progressives, not you personally, because I think you've always been a straight up guy and very transparent and straightforward. But in a race like this in Jersey City, is it going to be about, not being like who's woke, who's progressive, who's a liberal, who's a moderate? Is it going to be about that in Jersey City in this mayoral and council races? Or is it more about platforms? Because again, like case in point, you're a progressive, a potential maybe running mate or opponent like James Solomon is, he's a very progressive. Some things I definitely don't agree with him on, but like that act plays well in downtown, maybe in the Heights. Do you think that during this mayoral race that, again, the progressive politics or the woke crowd, does that play a very big role in what this mayoral race is going to be, you think?
I think it plays a role. I don't know how big a role. Time will tell. Obviously, like I said earlier, I think the vast majority of voters, first and foremost, want a mayor who's going to be accountable to them. They want a mayor who's going to be transparent, things that I think I've been throughout my career. They want a mayor who's going to get the tree trimmed when it needs to be trimmed, the pothole filled when it needs to be filled, is going to show up when there's a problem in their neighborhood and not be afraid to confront it. I think that's the vast majority of voters. Then within that world, yeah, where are you on certain issues? Where are you on certain progressives? I've always called myself an incremental progressive, meaning that I know that many of the causes championed by progressives, sometimes you can't get from A to Z in one step. Sometimes it takes a number of steps to do it. Like many years ago, I worked with a lot of the unions and the AFL-CIO on increasing the minimum wage in New Jersey. Now, that was done in steps, right? It didn't go to the 15 plus in one fell swoop. It went in increments, and it worked. And we got through it, and everybody who said, oh, what are we going to do? Businesses are going to close. None of that doom and gloom happened because it was done in an incremental approach. So I think it plays a role, but I think more of it is about who are you? Are you transparent? Are you accountable to people? How are you going to deal with the day-to-day problems of Jersey City? I think that is the paramount issue. But then beyond that, yeah, where do you stand philosophically on things that are important?
Well, fair enough. Bill, before I let you go, you mentioned about everyday issues that affect residents. I think one issue that, without question, is on the minds of everyone watching tonight, obviously, and residents that will watch the replay, and that's crime. And we know that in parts of Jersey City, crime is still a serious problem. Gun violence, things of that nature. We know that there isn't a magic wand that can cure this. I'm a conservative. I'm concerned about quality of life issues and crime, just like anybody else. I don't think it really goes along ideological lines. But a city like Jersey City continues to sort of remain in the headlines when it comes to crime. We know that urban centers in New Jersey, New Brunswick, Trenton, Newark, Camden, Atlantic City, I mean, keep getting that sort of like black eye on them about crime. In your capacity, should you be elected mayor, how do you want to focus on crime? Is it just hiring more police officers? Is it hiring more social workers? Is it having more intermediate sanctions? Like, what do you feel is going to be the best course of action should you become mayor in addressing crime in Jersey City?
So it's multifaceted. So start with youth. Instead of re-entry, let's think pre-entry. We have to beef up our recreation programs. Our recreation programs are not anywhere near where they should be. They're certainly nowhere where they were even when I was a kid. So we need to open up schools to have after-school programs. We need to get kids caught up on their math and reading. Remember, we still don't realize the full effect COVID had on the learning loss for our children.
Yeah.
Nobody's fully dealt with that. We've got to spend money. That's an investment of money, right? Because those young people, if you can't read at a fifth grade level by a certain age, and I was taught this by a couple of very young progressives that were still in high school, there's a 50% greater chance that you wind up in jail. So we've got to address that. We've got to get kids away from video games and their phones and socializing, doing sports, doing other kind of activities, pre-entry, giving them the opportunity. And if they're a latchkey kid, we need to create mentorships for them. So that's part of it. Making the police department more effective. So I don't know whether we need to hire more police officers, but we need to utilize them more effectively. So yes, the 911 system needs to be overturned or overhauled rather. There's times when at 5 o'clock in the morning, I had people tell me that they dial the number and no one answers the phone. So if I'm a criminal, I know that way. If I want to commit a crime, that's a good time of day because no one answers the phone. But also, I go to scenes of minor incidents, and I see 3 police cars. What sense does it make for 3 police units to be at that situation? 2 of them can be somewhere else, addressing other offenses, whether they're other quality of life or more serious offenses. So we have to better utilize and analyze how many officers are dispatched to a particular, whether it's a car accidents, whether it's a quality of life case, to make sure we're not over deploying officers to situations where they don't need to be deployed. So that's important. Mental health, addressing mental health issues is critical. I think that we need a mental health court We don't have a mental health court in Hudson County. It's something I'm going to talk about this year during the county budget because it's not really a city issue. It's a county issue. That way we can deal with individual mental health issues the way they should be dealt with, not necessarily either sending them back out into the street or just keeping them locked up in a correctional center where they're not addressing what their needs are. So it's multifaceted, but pre-entry is critical. If you give young people, nobody wants to be a criminal when they're a kid. Society and situations cause them to fall into that. So I think if we get more recreation, I'm a firm believer that we need 10 free summer camps in Jersey City, right? We don't have any right now. We need at least 10 free summer camps for kids. We need to open up schools. We need to get more tutoring and educational enhancement for the children we have. And it's one of the reasons I think I'm in a good position because I have a strong relationship, not only with the JCEA, but with the school board trustees on both sides of that situation that they're battling each other, but also with a lot of the principals and administrators. So I think it's multifaceted. Better utilize the police, address crime the way it needs to be addressed, address mental health issues, but most importantly, give young people an option to getting in trouble.
Bill, you mentioned the JCEA. Obviously, a lot of chaos there. I really don't want to delve into that, but I do want to sort of pick your brain about the reality that Jersey City, like a lot of like other municipalities in Hudson County, have been fortunate enough to have new schools built. Is that something, again, in your capacity as mayor, that you'll feel will be really urgent to do in the sense of working with the legislators in Jersey City that again are part of those districts that is it possible to have new schools built in Jersey City? I mean, where I live in Union City, my mayor is also my state senator. He's brought a lot of dollars in from Trenton to help build new schools. We've seen it in towns like Secaucus. We've seen it we've seen obviously in North Bergen and those towns. Obviously we'll possibly seeing it in West New York in the years to come. Do you think it's realistic, based on the space available, that maybe we can have another school or two built in Jersey City in the foreseeable future?
Yeah, look, there are places that they have to build them. Bayside or Bayfront is a place that there should be a school built and planned for. You could build a school across the street from where the headquarters of the Board of Ed is. There's land there to do that. There are places to build it. But more importantly, Fernando, we need to upgrade our existing schools. They're working on making them more energy efficient. They've got a lot of dollars to do that. But a lot of these schools just need to be upgraded. They don't have air conditioning. So these are things that have to be done in order to be able to do it. But you hit on a very valid point, which nobody talks about. The state aid that Jersey City gets is embarrassing. And the fact that our legislators have allowed that to happen is shameful. You mentioned Union City. I give all props to how Brian's able to bring funding in. But think about this. Union City gets almost $100 million more in state aid than Jersey City does. Mm-hmm. Patterson gets 4 times as much state aid as Jersey City does. So we need to start to look at, why are our legislators allowing a formula that basically punishes our success? So because we've developed our waterfront, we've generated more taxes for the state of New Jersey, because the people that live in those apartments and condo units make a lot of money, pay a lot of state income tax, right? They generate a lot of retail sales tax, but our reward for that is to strip our money to where we get 1/4 the amount of state aid that a city like Patterson gets. It makes absolutely no sense. And as mayor, I'm going to tell my legislators that represent the city, if you can't correct that, then you better not vote for that budget.
Well said there. Bill, I'm going to let you go, man. You've been a gentleman tonight. We've had a great conversation. And I have to tell you, listen, it's very productive when conservatives and progressives can actually have a conversation and talk about policy and talk about really the things that benefit people. And I think that this is just a great example of a very constructive conversation. And I'm really happy to have you on tonight. Certainly, I know that it's a long process. It's not until November 2025. We'll certainly, I definitely want to have you back on the program. I want to learn about, your potential running mates, which again, listen, I'm a big poker player. You don't want to show your hand too early, but I think at some point people, I'm sure, are sort of whispering in your ear, hey, Bill, are we going to get a sense of some potential running mates? Listen, I hear the chirping out there. I got my sources. I want to put you on the spot, but I'm hearing some potential running mates out there, people that I talk to regularly. Any names you want to drop tonight, or you want to keep us in suspense?
I'm going to keep you in suspense, but I'll let you know by the end of this quarter, by the end of June, expect that we'll announce at least 3, if not 4 of our running mates. And we've got some where we haven't, you alluded to certain potential candidates. To some degree, we're holding back on even having conversations with candidates because there are candidates from those areas that we want with us if they opt not to run for mayor.
Bill, great conversation. Again, folks, check out BillO'DayJC.com if you're looking to donate and or volunteer for Bill's campaign for mayor in 2025. Bill, listen, great conversation with you tonight. Hope you had a wonderful Easter. We'll talk to you again soon here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV.
Thank you. And next time I'll make sure I'm in my office where I got enough lighting and not in my car.
Hey, no worries. Listen, we have the conversations when we can have them. People tune in, and people are learning tonight and about your campaign, and certainly, Bill, what you're looking to do in Jersey City to add on to the legacy you already have of what you've done in Jersey City. So I want to thank you for your time, Bill. Again, have a great rest of the spring. Happy Father's Day in advance to you. And once again, we'll talk to you again soon here on Jersey First TV.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Folks, great conversation there with Bill O'Day, obviously one of our esteemed county commissioners here in Hudson County. A lot to unpackage there, really, about his campaign, what separates him from the current crop of candidates right now. Tentatively, we're looking at former Governor Jim McGreevey and current City Council President Joyce Waterman. So without a doubt, we're going to have much more candidates jumping into this contest in the months ahead. When that happens, we don't know. Certainly some speculation running rampant about who Bill O'Day will be selecting as running mates. Again, folks, this is nothing earth-shattering. I'm not breaking news here, but certainly we're hearing names like Tom Zupa, former prosecutor, certainly a guy that ran for a ward seat in the previous cycle, unsuccessfully, but a guy that, whose star is on the rise politically in Jersey City, that's for sure. Also looking at Kristen Hart, obviously, former president of the JCEA, certainly someone whose name continues to get a lot of political capital in Jersey City, as well as other names as well. So it'll be interesting to see who Bill selects at the end of this financial quarter, as he mentioned, and also whoever Joyce Waterman is looking to select, and of course also who Jim McGreevey is looking to select in the months ahead. Again, folks, we're talking about almost 20 months here until November of 2025. So a lot remains to be seen about where this race is going. Obviously, all of our attention is on this year and this November, the presidential race, the U.S. Senate seat up for grabs, certainly House races up for grabs in New Jersey, as well as the rest of the country. But, before you know it, it'll be January 2025, and we'll be sort of centering our attention towards not just only the governor's race in New Jersey, and in addition to the Hoboken mayoral and council races, but without a doubt, we'll be focusing a lot of time on this program concerning the Jersey City mayoral and city council races as well in November of 2025. Pretty crowded ballot, folks. Again, I used to love those mayoral and council races back in May. That's not the case, obviously, in a lot of municipalities. In Jersey City is certainly one of them. We'll see where this race goes. I like Bill personally. I like Jim personally. I'm sure there's some things that the three of us will disagree on policy-wise. And hey, listen, we'll tackle them in future interviews. As I can assure you that I'll be having Jim McGreevey back on. I'll be having Bill O'Day back on, and certainly looking forward to having Joyce Waterman on the program at some point in the months ahead here on Jersey First TV. So stay tuned for that, folks. Again, we're talking to candidates. We're talking about, really, good journalism on this program, folks. I can't speak about other people in the establishment media here in the Garden State, but here on Jersey First TV, folks, you can always rely on responsible and really educational and informative journalism here on the broadcast every single week. Folks, before we call it a night, and once again, I do want to thank County Commissioner and mayoral candidate in Jersey City, Bill O'Day, for his time tonight. Well over 40 minutes, a lot longer than I expected. I'm sure his campaign team might not be too happy about that. Again, my apologies. But when you're having a good conversation, you just want to keep talking and talking about issues that matter to everyday Jersey City residents. So looking forward to continuing that dialogue here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Folks, before we call it a night, you know what time it is. It's time for final thoughts. And yes, folks, I'm going to take a sort of a less bombastic view on final thoughts tonight. I know that, as I mentioned before, obviously April Fool's joke there, referencing the useless 8 in the establishment liberal media here in New Jersey. And they all know who they are. I don't like them any more than they like me. But I want to talk about something serious right now during final thoughts, folks. And shout out and credit to a member of the Pinnacle in Hudson County and fellow Rutgers alumnus and fellow student of the great art of jiu-jitsu, fellow student there, John R. Hines. And as I mentioned during the conversation with County Commissioner Bill O'Day, folks, there was a political earthquake last Friday, on Good Friday, no less, right? During the Easter weekend, right? Easter weekend, that's the only holiday we celebrated this past weekend, folks. Don't let anybody tell you differently with whatever other nonsense you want to hear. We celebrated Easter weekend, and I was proud to do that as well. But on Good Friday, folks, it was quite the rumblings in New Jersey politics. And let me just give you some background here as it pertains to obviously the federal judge, U.S. District Court Judge Sahid Qureshi ruled in favor of a lawsuit brought by U.S. Representative Andy Kim down in the 3rd Congressional District, who right now is the frontrunner in the U.S. Senate race. Thankfully, after the Queen, Tammy Murphy, stepped down, thank the Lord. And obviously other Democratic candidates that were obviously what this court decision did was strike down the organizational lines for this year's elections in what was heralded as a blockbuster decision at the end of last week. And who'd have thought, folks, Easter weekend on Good Friday, people thinking, oh, it's a holiday weekend. No news is breaking. Well, that was not the case. And of course, a shout out to David Wallstein, the editor of the New Jersey Globe, really the only journalist statewide that I trust in terms of reporting news accurately and responsibly. But at a local level, folks, I mean, obviously, we've come to rely on John Hines, the editor of the Hudson County View, for his exceptional reporting and his ability to break news at a moment's notice as well. Now, New Jersey, again, sort of just give you some context here from the article, New Jersey is the only state in the country to utilize the unique ballot style, which research shows gives candidates on the line a significant advantage. We've seen that over the years. All right. Now, according to Stephen Fulop, the current mayor of Jersey City and a gubernatorial candidate for the Democrat Party, he wanted to say, quote, thanks to the hard work of grassroots advocates who pushed the issue forward over the last several years and devoted themselves to the hard, often thankless work of improving our democracy, New Jersey has taken a major step forward today to a fairer, more representative electoral system and away from the political bossism and corruption that has plagued our state for far too long. He also wanted to say, quote, this is a victory for the people and proof that nothing can stop determined residents fighting for what's right. I'm looking forward to continuing our campaign for governor, knowing that the decision on who our party nominates will be made by the Democratic voters of New Jersey, not by the party bosses in a backroom choosing or candidates of their choice. Now, Fulop has pushed hard against the county lines since the fall and began entertaining the possibility of running without them in 2025, where he was the first candidate to enter the race earlier this year. Again, one of the county commissioners, coincidentally my guest tonight, Bill O'Day, a declared candidate for Jersey City mayor, also celebrated Qureshi's decision to grant emergency injunctive relief in Kim's case. And of course, we talked about that before. In addition, Jersey City Ward E Councilman James Solomon, who along with Hoboken Mayor Ravi Bala filed an amicus brief in Kim's case, essentially called the ruling a game changer for New Jersey politics. Now, again, I'm not going to sort of go into the column. You can read the great work there by John Hines in his report. You can check it out at the website, www.hudsoncountyview.com. But folks, I have to tell you that abolishing a line is a good thing. Yes, you heard that correctly. Abolishing a line is a good thing, right? Because if we're all about democracy, if we're all about preserving democracy, right? Not when it suits us, right? Like by trying to keep people off ballots or anything, right? But if we're interested in really preserving democracy, then making sure that people have an equal say in being able to run for office, whether it's at local level, right? A municipal level, a county level, let's say for a legislative seat, or even a statewide position, right? Such as governor. And I would tell you, folks, that yes, this certainly neutralizes the party bosses at the county level, whether it's Union County Chair Nicholas Scutari, whether it's Middlesex County Chair Kevin McCabe, whether it is, Essex County Chairman and also coincidentally State Democratic Chair Leroy Jones, or even here in Hudson County, Anthony Venera. Right? This certainly weakens their ability to influence elections. Now, let me just start off by saying that this is a monumental decision, not just for Democrats during this Senate primary, but coincidentally, we will see what happens on the Republican side because, folks, I've seen it firsthand. Since I started this show with Jersey First TV in 2022, even going back to when I first started the show in 2020, under the Eyes on NJ News umbrella, I interviewed tons of candidates that were not always given the county line, both Republicans and Democrats. And for a lot of years, people kept telling me, Fernando, it's fundamentally unfair. Now, I get it that it's going to, and again, and in Bill's words, and other elected officials will tell you the same thing, yes, it's going to force people to actually have to get to work and work on campaigns and work on raising money and work on mobilizing and work on getting the message out without question. Do people that have gotten the county line, have they received an unfair advantage over the years? Without a doubt. And we have seen not just only candidates, but activists and even some journalists denouncing this specific practice. Again, we're going to see, right, what the judge's decision is going to be ultimately. But I think on a statewide level, this is a good thing. More and more people participating in the electoral process isn't a bad thing. Okay. Now, am I concerned that way too many like wacko progressives and, the usual socialists and progressive Democrats, right? And some of these, whack job candidates, am I concerned that some of these candidates will get some oxygen during these races? Yeah, sure. I'm concerned. And we all know what I'm talking about, right? Like all these perpetual candidates and, insufferable activists that talk about policy, but they're not really about policy. They're just about sort of hearing, the sound of their own voice. But whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, again, ultimately, if we're abolishing the county line, that's always a good thing for democracy. Give as many people, hopefully qualified people, the ability to run for office. Again, and I interviewed a lot of legislative candidates these last few years, both Republicans and Democrats, that would tell you that, hey, they felt marginalized by not being on the county line, by not getting that advantage. And I understand there's some county clerks who are not going to challenge and are going to appeal this decision, right? This injunction by the U.S. District Court judge. Obviously, one of them right here is in Hudson County. County Clerk Junior Maldonado. Good for Junior. I'm sure over the weekend, as he spoke with Mayor Stephen Fulop and County Commissioner Bill O'Day, I'm sure that was a very interesting conversation. So, bravo to Junior for not looking to appeal this. Other county clerks might not do the same thing. We're going to find out, folks, in the next few weeks who's really about democracy. Not just Democrats, but Republicans statewide, who always talk about democracy and how to preserve it and how democracy is in danger, which it's not, right? When you start trying to keep candidates off ballots, right, at any level, yeah, that's when I'm concerned about democracy. But here in New Jersey, folks, again, the only state in the country that still uses this antiquated system, hey, if ultimately the county line is abolished, as I said earlier, that's always a good thing. And we'll see where it goes. Without question, obviously, it's going to raise a lot of eyebrows, and we'll see whether or not this decision gets made judicially or if it'll be done legislatively. Because who knows? Maybe the judge doesn't want this on his hands. Maybe he doesn't want this responsibility this close to a primary. Because again, folks, we're talking about a little over 60 days away from the June 8th primary here in New Jersey. Okay? Whether or not this forces the hand of the legislature for 2025, we don't know. We're going to find out soon enough. But folks, abolishing the county line is a good thing. If we believe in democracy, again, whether we're conservatives like me or Democrats or Republicans or liberals or progressives or moderates or whatever, folks, if we believe in democracy, let's make sure it works for everybody, not just a select few, and specifically not just for the county bosses, because they've held a lot of power for a lot of years. I get it. should this stand essentially being a county chairman or chairwoman for either the Republican Party in a specific county or the Democrat Party in a specific county, well, this might weaken them considerably. We'll find out in the weeks and months ahead. But folks, again, if we're talking about democracy and preserving it, this is a good first step in making sure that the electoral process for everybody is fair and equal. And at the end of the day, isn't that what we all want? Fair elections? I don't think it's a bad thing. Folks, before we call it a night, obviously, I do want to, I don't want to brag, but, I enjoy being a little braggadocious. But once again, folks, I want to thank you all for yet again another successful month of traffic here on Real Talk. And of course, we have a lot of those cynics, right? Some of these insufferable activists and failed candidates and Mickey Mouse journalists or Mickey Mouse locals. And, people that like to opine on social media. Hey, you know what? I live by a simple philosophy. If you're just getting a little bit of hate, then you made it. And obviously I made it because the hate for Fernando Uribe continues on a daily basis. And listen, I love to soak in the hate. And when I see the hate online, it just makes me want to have a little tea, a little victory tea for me. But in all seriousness, folks, I want to thank everybody who tunes in every Monday night live and also shares the replay. People come up to me. I go to events during this election season all the time. Republicans, Democrats, liberals, progressives, conservatives, whoever say, Fernando, I may not always like what you have to say, but bro, is your show entertaining? Bro, isn't it educational and isn't it informative? That's why I tune in. And, listen, I may not always like everything you have to say on your show or on your social media, but bro, I commend you for having just the guts to get out there, create interesting dialogue, talk to everybody, again, both on the right and the left, but more importantly, have a show that people want to tune into every Monday night live via jerseyfirst.org/TV and, of course, on all the social media platforms. Folks, I can't say enough. Traffic remains strong in 2024, going back to 2023 and going back to 2022. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I take pride in this program. And I'll continue to do so by bringing you the guests that you want to hear from and having the conversations that interest you during this election cycle, whether it's about municipal politics, statewide politics, or even national politics. We're always doing it here on this show. And folks, I'll even put this out there. I'll even plant the flag on the hill. I'm doing it better than anybody in the state of New Jersey. Again, when it comes to statewide establishment media, no one's doing better interviews than yours truly. I'll take the Pepsi challenge on that one all day long. And again, the reason the traffic remains strong is because of all of you at home, family, friends, frenemies, colleagues, even all the haters. You're tuning in because you just can't help yourselves. And again, I'm thankful to all of you for the continued success of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe here on Jersey First TV. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank County Commissioner Bill O'Day, also a mayoral candidate in Jersey City for 2025, for what I think was one of the better interviews you'll see all year long, folks, with Bill O'Day here on the program. And I appreciate you tuning in here. Always check us out on our social media. Make sure you like us on Facebook. And, of course, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And, of course, don't forget to subscribe to Jersey First on YouTube. You'll be notified of all the great content brought to you by Jersey First TV. And, of course, whether you get your podcast on Spotify or SoundCloud, download Jersey First and take it with you anywhere at any time. Again, as the days are getting a little longer, the sun's out a little bit later, you're walking your dog, going for a run, whatever it is you're doing, you're on your smartphone. I know you are. Download Jersey First and take it with you anywhere at any time. And I cannot say enough how proud I am and privileged to be on the dream team of Garden State Media. That's right, folks. It is Jersey First TV. Once again, brand new episodes of The Nader Narrative hosted by the amazing Elizabeth Nader, premiere every Thursday. And also brand new episodes of Bridging the Gap with AJ Malillo and Stephen Rimbolo premiere also on Thursdays. And brand new episodes premiere every Monday night, courtesy of yours truly here for Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Folks, I can't say enough. Without you, my loyal viewing audience, the success of this show would not be possible. So thank you. I love you all for doing that. And of course, I'm so grateful for your support here on Jersey First TV. Folks, as a special reminder, and you know what? It is WrestleMania weekend coming up this weekend. And of course, I like to rock t-shirts in the background, but folks, I want to rock a shirt right here. I want to show my support for the tribal chief, for the GOAT, for the head of the table, for the undisputed WWE Universal Champion. I'll say it again. The GOAT, Roman Reigns, this weekend in Philadelphia for the 40th edition of WrestleMania. He'll be double main eventing over the weekend, folks, and he'll be defending his championship on Sunday against the American Nightmare. Will Cody Rhodes finish the story? Spoiler alert, he will not. Roman Reigns will remain your tribal chief and the head of the table way past WrestleMania 40. So, folks, again, for those of you that enjoy Peacock, whether you subscribe it on, obviously, on DirecTV, whether you just buy the pay-per-view, folks, enjoy the 40th annual WrestleMania. Again, as a lifelong pro wrestling fan, I cannot say enough how excited I am about WrestleMania weekend, both Saturday and Sunday night. A jam-packed card, wonderful matches, wonderful memories, folks, as I can remember to the very first WrestleMania at Madison Square Garden on March the 31st, 1985. That iconic main event tag team match of Hulk Hogan and Mr. T taking on Roddy Piper and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. Folks, there's never been a more iconic tag team main event match in WrestleMania history. That all changes this Saturday as the WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns teams up with his cousin The Rock to take on the American Nightmare and the WWE World Heavyweight Champion Seth Rollins. Folks, it's going to be interesting WrestleMania weekend, to say at least. Enjoy it. I'll be having a nice house party. Enjoy it. Please party responsibly, folks. And again, we'll see you next Monday night here for the latest edition of Real Talk via Jersey First TV. I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist. Top 50 Latino is voted on by the Latino Spirit Online magazine, along with the United States Latino Affairs Initiative. And now more than ever, I will continue to be the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media, because my level of honesty, now more than ever, is necessary in this era of journalistic deception. That's right, folks. It's your favorite conservative, Fernando Uribe, saying so long. Thank you so much for watching again. Enjoy WrestleMania weekend, and we'll see you next Monday night here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. And thanks for stopping by.